How does someone go from leading veteran organizations to being accused of burying them in debt and dodging accountability? Pete Hegseth, a familiar face on cable news and a self-proclaimed defender of veterans, is now at the center of a financial firestorm. Senator Richard Blumenthal isn't just raising eyebrows. He's demanding receipts, exposing millions in deficits, questionable bookkeeping, and a pattern of mismanagement that can't be ignored. This isn't just about numbers. It's about trust, leadership, and whether Hegseth's patriotic image is hiding something far more troubling beneath the surface.
Senator Blumenthal.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for having this hearing. Thank you for being here, Mr. Hegseth. And I want to join in expressing appreciation and respect for your service to our country, and thanks to all the veterans who are here today, and thank you for your service as the ranking member of the Veterans Affairs Committee. I hope we can focus on doing better for our veterans and doing better in management of the Department of Defense. There's always room for improvement. I think what we need in that position is not just better, but the best in financial management, because those decisions are life and death decisions affecting the 3.4 million Americans who serve our national security and our national defense and put their lives on the line. I want to talk about financial mismanagement at the two organizations that you headed, which are the only test of your financial management that we have before this committee, the Veterans for Freedom and Concerned Veterans for America. You took over the Veterans for Freedom in 2007. In 2008, you raised $8.7 million, but spent more than $9 million, creating a deficit. By January 2009, you told donors that the organization had less than $1,000 in the bank and debts of $434,000. By 2010, revenue at the Veterans for Freedom had dropped to about $265,000. In the next year, it had dropped further to $22,000. You don't dispute these numbers, do you?
Senator, I'm extremely proud of the work me and my fellow vets did at Vets for Freedom. A bunch of young vets with no political experience, a small group working hard every single day. We raised donor funds. And we have letters submitted for the record from almost everyone that worked with me every single day, including our chief operating officer, who will attest that every dollar we raised was used intentionally toward the execution of our mission, which is supporting the warfighters, exactly why we're here today, the warfighters in the Iraq surge. There was a campaign in 2008, Senator. It was Barack Obama versus John McCain. We believe John McCain would be the right person to win, and so we spent more.
Tax returns from that organization.
I'm glad they're for the record.
I'm going to ask to be entered into the record, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection.
These tax returns are yours. They have your signature. And I'm going to ask that members of the committee review them because they're the only documents. I've asked for others. I've asked for the FBI report that would presumably document, it should have documented, this kind of financial mismanagement. And these are the 990s from that organization. By the year of 2011, donors had become so dissatisfied with that mismanagement, they, in effect, ousted you. They merged that organization with Military Families United, and thereafter, you joined a second organization as executive director.
In between, Senator, I went to Harvard University for 2 years and Afghanistan.
I want to ask you questions about Concerned Veterans for America. Again, another set of tax returns, the 990s from that organization. I ask they be made part of the record, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection, both of those returns are now part of the record.
2011 to 2016. At the end of 2013, shortfall of $130,000. At the end of 2014, shortfall of $428,000. You had a surplus the following year, but then another deficit of $437,000. By the time you left, that organization had deep debts, including credit card transaction debts of about $75,000. That isn't the kind of fiscal management we want at the Department of Defense. We can't tolerate it at the Department of Defense. That's an organization with a budget of $850 billion, not 10 or 15 million, which was the case at those two organizations. And it has command responsibility for 3.4 million Americans. The highest number that you managed in those two organizations was maybe 50 people. Let me ask you, how many men and women now serve in the United States Army? What is Sen's strength?
Senator, I would like an opportunity to respond to
Well,
the
I've asked you a
impugning
question.
of my leadership of
how
a
many men
veterans
and women
organization. Concerned
currently
Veterans for
serve?
America, you're on the VA committee, sir, and I appreciate your service there. The VA Accountability Act and the Mission Act were all brainchilds of Concerned Veterans for America. We used our donor money very intentionally and focused to create policy that bettered the lives of veterans.
Mr. Hegseth, I'm asking you a very simple question. How many men and women currently serve in the United States Army?
Senator, the United States Army, 450,000 on active duty, sir.
And how many in the Navy?
And the Navy is 425, sir.
Well, it's 337 this year. How many in the Marine Corps?
175,000, sir.
172,300. Those numbers dwarf any experience you had by many multiples. I don't believe that you can tell this committee or the people of America that you are qualified to lead them. I would support you as the spokesperson for the Pentagon. I don't dispute your communication skills, but I believe that we are entitled to the facts here. I've asked for more documents. I assume you'd be willing to submit to an expanded FBI background check that interviews your colleagues, accountants, ex-wives, former spouses, sexual assault survivors, and others, and enable them to come forward.
Senator, I'm not in charge of FBI background checks.
But you would submit to it and support it.
I'm not in charge of FBI background checks.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal.
When someone takes the reins of a veterans organization, it's not just a leadership title. It's a promise. A promise to represent those who've put their lives on the line for this country. That kind of responsibility doesn't come with do-overs. It comes with consequences. Because when you're dealing with people who've sacrificed everything, mismanagement isn't just a clerical error. It's a betrayal. Senator Richard Blumenthal, during a recent hearing, made it clear he believes Pete Hegseth has failed that responsibility. Not quietly, spectacularly. And he wasn't relying on vague criticisms or political jabs. He came with the receipts. Literally, tax returns, financial records, and a timeline that paints a damning picture of Hegseth's time at the helm of not one, but two veterans organizations that let's talk about Veterans for Freedom, the first organization Hegseth led. In 2008, it raised a staggering $8.7 million. But instead of solid strategy or investment in long-term support for veterans, the group managed to spend over $9 million, instantly plunging into deficit. By early 2009, Hegseth reportedly informed donors the group had less than $1,000 in the bank and $434,000 in debt. Just 1 year later, revenue dropped to $265,000, and by the following year, it nosedived even further to just $22,000. To what happened? How does nearly $9 million vanish so quickly? And why was there no transparent explanation for such a dramatic collapse? Hegseth defended himself with what sounded more like nostalgia than accountability, saying it was just a group of young vets with no political experience trying to support the warfighters. And sure, noble intentions may have been there. But where's the line between noble and negligent? Because blowing through millions and walking away with your hands clean isn't leadership. It's damage control, but the story doesn't end there. After Veterans for Freedom fell apart, Hegseth took over a second group, Concerned Veterans for America. And again, the financial storm clouds followed. Blumenthal presented more tax returns and more damning data. Between 2013 and 2015, the organization posted consistent shortfalls, $130,000 in 1 year, $428,000 the next, and then $437,000 the year after that. And buried in the details? Over $75,000 in credit card transaction debt. According to Blumenthal, donors weren't just concerned, they were furious. So much so that they effectively forced a merger with another organization, Military Families United, just to stabilize things. That's not a rough patch. That's a full-blown collapse of credibility. IT raises the question. If this happened once, maybe it was misfortune. Twice? That starts to look like a pattern. A pattern of raising large sums under the banner of patriotism, only to leave behind broken finances and unanswered questions. Then came a moment that felt less like a Senate hearing and more like a live job interview. Blumenthal began grilling Hegseth, not just on the money, but on military basics, asking for active duty headcounts in the Army, Navy, and Marine Corps. Hegseth fumbled, not disastrously, but enough to raise a deeper issue. If you're going to be a national voice on military issues, you'd better know the fundamentals. And if you want to lead defense policy, understanding how many people you'd be responsible for isn't optional. It's basic. Blumenthal's questions weren't just pop quizzes. They were warnings. Warnings about the weight of leadership, especially in a department like defense, with a budget of over $850 billion in responsibility for 3.4 million Americans. Hegseth, in his two organizations, never managed more than maybe 50 people. That's a massive gap. And then Blumenthal dropped the hammer, calling not only for more financial documents, but an expanded FBI background check. That's not something you ask for on a whim. That's a signal. A signal that the concerns here aren't just about paperwork. They're about integrity. About whether someone is fit to lead when millions of dollars and millions of lives are involved. That, let's be clear, this isn't a partisan takedown. This is about accountability. Because if you're raising money in the name of veterans, people have a right to know where that money is going. Every penny. And when the numbers don't add up, when the debts pile up, and when leadership turns into spin, people start asking, was it about the mission or about the microphone? What Blumenthal made crystal clear is that waving the flag doesn't excuse burying financial red flags. Patriotism isn't a brand. It's a responsibility. And if Hegseth can't manage a $10 million nonprofit, how can anyone trust him to manage a department with a budget 85 times larger? Leadership isn't just about showing up on TV. It's about showing up for the people who need you most and doing the hard, thankless, transparent work. Veterans deserve better. Not just passion, not just speeches, but real stewardship. Competence. Integrity. So what do you think? Is this just political noise? Or is Pete Hegseth facing real questions that deserve real answers? Let us know in the comments. And if you found this video eye-opening, make sure to like and subscribe, because the next one goes even deeper.